Alright everyone, in this video I'm going to be breaking down Irredeemable Volume 6. Last volume was probably one of my favorite. We had that Snickers bar moment, and we had many twists and turns. That volume ended with Plutonian being taken away by these Vzz-P'Ah aliens. In this volume we will follow Plutonian on his journey with the Vespens, and we will see what's going on Earth and how they are celebrating the sort of defeat of Plutonian. Let's dive into it. Irredeemable Volume 6. Irredeemable Volume 6, written by Mark Waid, art by Peter Krause. Issue 20. Plutonian has been captured by the aliens known as the Vzz-P'Ah last volume, and they have been keeping him docile by placing him in an artificial reality fantasy. In that fantasy, Plutonian is a hero once again. Everyone in Sky City is alive and loves him. But in the real world, meanwhile, the aliens are operating on him and transporting Plutonian across the galaxy. Back on Earth, Cubit, Caden, and Carrie are celebrating the defeat of Plutonian and the safety of the world. Carrie eventually gets a news camera pointed on him, and he begins talking to the world. He tells everyone into the camera, "God, I dreamed of the day I could deliver this speech. My name is Survivor. And those of you who know me also know you can trust me when I say, the day we've prayed for is finally here. Terror is no longer our constant companion. As of now, it is replaced with hope. My team and I stood up to a planetary threat, and we won. Plutonian's gone. On the authority of, me, I'm declaring this a worldwide holiday, and I doubt anyone would argue with me over that. I'm just so proud that I could bring you this victory. Not alone, of course. We lost good men and women in the fight, and they will be mourned. We are grateful to all who stood against the Plutonian's carnage. The human race has marched through the fires of hell, and all it's done is temper our resolve. Today, we are all survivors." Carrie, he then asks for any superpowered people, even if they were superpowered criminals, to come out and return to society. They no longer need to live in fear. Carrie then, controversially, and under what authority it is unclear, he then offers all the criminals or outlaws with powers who have been laying low, he offers them amnesty, a full pardon, so long as they come out and help them rebuild society. Cubit, hearing Carrie say this, is puzzled and says, "What?" Carrie, though, continues. He says, "I personally guarantee it. I have to. In this moment, we must all put our differences aside for the future of humanity." Back over to Plutonian. The Vzz-P'Ah aliens remove the restraints that they had him in, and they remove the psychic dampeners so that he may regain consciousness. But Plutonian, he refuses to leave his dream world, as it is so beautiful to him. He actually sheds a tear. So the Vzz-P'Ah are like, whatever, and they just dump Plutonian into a pit, expecting him to work this mine on an alien world with all of these other alien prisoners. The alien prisoners, they walk over to Plutonian and begin investigating him, and they refer to him as new meat. They start kicking him around a bit, but Plutonian, he still refuses to wake up. He refuses to come out of his dream world. He wants to stay there where everybody loves him. Issue 21. Plutonian is still off in Dream World. In his dream world, he is still playing the part of superhero. There was some sort of bomb, and Plutonian grabbed it and flew the briefcase bomb out into the desert to explode safely away from all the civilians. Plutonian, he then flies back into Sky City and stops some bullets from hitting a cop. Then a criminal is driving his car, and he smashes it right into Plutonian, but Plutonian, he just stands there defiantly in the car's way as it hits him, and he stops the car. Plutonian then sees a little boy playing basketball on the street, and Plutonian tells the boy with a friendly voice, "Remember to always look both ways." The Vzz-P'Ah aliens, they use some sort of viewer helmet, and with it, they are watching what is going on in Plutonian's mind, and they see all of Plutonian's crazy daydreaming he is doing. The aliens deduce that Plutonian isn't simply daydreaming, rather he is withdrawing from reality of his own accord. He is living in a self-contained fantasy world. The Vzz-P'Ah aliens had planned on Plutonian doing some slave labor for them in the mines, although Plutonian refusing to wake up and come out of his fantasy world is making that a little bit difficult for them. So the aliens have come up with a workaround. They have strapped Plutonian's body into a remote-controlled exoskeleton and are piloting him remotely. It's awkward and tedious, but Plutonian is so strong and invulnerable, the aliens feel they are still getting some sufficient work out of him. On Earth, there is a big celebration. People are burning Plutonian memorabilia. Even kids are taking part in the festivities. Later on, Cubit and Carrie are talking. Cubit is concerned that Carrie is no longer really looking for his brother Scylla. Carrie explains this away as he is a little bit busy restoring world order to be looking for his brother. Cubit is also upset about Carrie's whole blanket pardoning of various criminals thing. Specifically, Cubit brings up 3 such villains as examples. There's Decay, a big tubby man of a villain that melts everything he touches. There's Agent Grave, who has a warrant out for his arrest for committing 542 counts of murder. Also, his mouth is weirdly sewn together, it looks creepy. There's a woman named Shank, whom seems to have a thing for stabbing people. Cubit goes on to say that there are dozens more out there like them, and they're all now coming out expecting pardons, and Carrie has to take on the task of organizing and managing them, and making sure they help. Cubit directly questions Carrie again. Scylla might supposedly still be alive. Why isn't Carrie looking for him? Carrie eventually lets it out that he can't find Scylla yet, for the good of everyone. He shares his power equally with Scylla, and right now Carrie can't afford to give up some of his power. Carrie gets angry and says, "Someone needs to be in control of the mess Plutonian left behind. If my twin were to walk through that door, if he were to have me, to reduce us to what we once were, what control do you think I'd have over the Wild West out there? My God, I'm the only hope we have of rebuilding civilization. And by the way, all I have to do is give up my brother? You should be thanking me for being willing to make that sacrifice." Now Cubit, he knows that both Carrie and Carrie's brother Scylla had a little bit of a crush on fellow Paradigm member Kaidan, but Kaidan was always more into Scylla instead. So Cubit says something now to Carrie that cuts deep. Cubit says, "Kaidan won't love you just because you're here and he's not." Carrie, this pisses him off, and he storms out. Before he leaves, though, Carrie reminds Cubit of those farmers in Iowa that were beating Cubit up because they found out he let Plutonian live. Carrie says, "That was just a band of farmers, Cubit, and they would have beaten you to death if I'd let them. Now imagine what your life would be worth if the entire world knew what they knew. Would there be one single place on Earth you could hide? I doubt it." Back to the prison planet. Some of the Vzz-P'Ah aliens are flying over the planet. One of them is an ambassador, and the other alien is the one that runs the prison, and he is explaining things about the prison to the ambassador. The prison warden says that on average, there are approximately 20 prisoners working at a time. The Terramite excavation eventually claims the weaker ones, but we're constantly being provided with, shall we say, new labor. This prison planet harbors the most ruthless, most powerful beings in the known universe, and does so for bargain rates. You'll find our services quite reasonably priced. The alien ambassador asks how they keep the prisoners in line. The prison warden answers that, well, at the center of this prison planet is a graviton well capable of generating half the pull of a black hole. Whenever we wish to induce a lockdown, we simply activate the well and pin the prisoners motionless to the ground for an indefinite period of time. Escape is pretty much impossible. Even the strongest down there can't defy the weight of an entire star system bearing down on them. We lose a few prisoners a year this way due to organ failure, but it's a very successful deterrent. So basically, if the prisoners start acting up, all they have to do is dial up the gravity, the prisoners get pinned to the ground, and then there's really not much they can do. We see down on the prison planet's surface, Plutonian is in his exoskeleton suit and is being forced to work away. While in Plutonian's mind, he is still in Sky City with Samsara, saving people's lives. Plutonian in his mind saves a boy that fell out the window. Plutonian caught the boy, but he accidentally grabbed the child a little bit too hard and bruised him, maybe even broke some bones on the boy. Plutonian flew the child to the hospital. With the child in his arms, he yells at the doctors and nurses there. "It was an accident, I swear, save him! You have to save him!" So Plutonian, now in the fantasy in his mind, is starting to lose a little bit of control there too, just like he did in real life when he was back on Earth. The Vzz-P'Ah, they start panicking a little bit as Plutonian seems like he will slowly start coming awake and may break free of their restraints. The Vzz-P'Ah aliens, they trigger that gravity lockdown and they increase the gravity 100-fold on the prison planet. A lot of the prisoners get pinned to the surface of the planet. The Vzz-P'Ah aliens running the prison, though, are still panicking because it doesn't seem like this is going to be enough to keep the Plutonian contained. The Vzz-P'Ah prison warden orders that they increase the gravity pressure up to the maximum. One of the other Vzz-P'Ah jailers warns that if they increase the gravity more, some of the prisoners on the surface will liquefy. The prison warden doesn't care though, he says to do it. So they apply the gravity pressure up to maximum, and then the alien prisoners on the surface of the prison planet liquefy, and they all die. We see they are now just a pool of body parts. Not Plutonian though, he didn't die. He is still standing there. His body is somehow able to withstand this intense gravity. He is still stuck in his dream world, but for how much longer? Will he wake up soon? Issue 22. Plutonian in his dream world flies to his citadel and starts panicking, saying he is losing control. He talks to Samsara, who tells Plutonian to just relax. Meanwhile, in the real world, the Vzz-P'Ah aliens are printing lots of cloned skin of the Plutonian out of a fancy skin printing machine they have, I guess. And they begin wrapping Plutonian's body in it to try and contain him. Plutonian in his dream world lies in a pool of lava in his volcano base, and it kind of soothes him, and he begins to calm down a bit and rest. The aliens in the real world with Plutonian wrapped up in his own skin then seal him up in a giant metal enclosure. They close the metal enclosure and they put it inside a giant diamond-looking enclosure, and they prepare to transport Plutonian off-world. The Vzz-P'Ah have realized that their prison planet will no longer be capable of holding Plutonian, and if Plutonian is going to wake up soon, they don't want him anywhere near them. So they need to get Plutonian to a new location. Elsewhere, back on Earth, Modius's essence is no longer in Samsara's body. It is now occupying one of the Modius androids. And Modius, in that android form, is now contemplating what to do next. Modius, he is in love with Plutonian, and he is attempting to fill that void. He has dressed Scylla up as Plutonian and kisses him. But alas, kissing Scylla dressed up as Plutonian does not do that much for Modius. Modius has a plan to get Incanta to transfer his consciousness into Scylla's body, and then he will infiltrate the paradigm as their returned comrade and then strike from within. This was Modius's plan, but then as he was thinking about it, he realized that, there is an advantage to living in a body made of circuits and nanopressors. It is that he has no heart to break. So Modius decides that he will not transfer into Scylla's body. Instead, he will try and save Plutonian and get Plutonian back from the Vzz-P'Ah aliens. Modius, he then writes in his journal, "Somewhere out there among the stars, Tony, you are lost and alone. Cubit knows how to find you, and I know how to save you. I'm coming, my love, coming for you." Back in space, the Vzz-P'Ah aliens fly Plutonian in his ridiculous enclosure across the galaxy. The device they have Plutonian in has the superdimensional density equivalent to half a white dwarf star. This is why they couldn't simply just teleport Plutonian across the galaxy, not without folding the time-space continuum upon itself. So instead they have to fly him there manually, and it is so heavy it is like dragging a moon in tow. The Vzz-P'Ah aliens that were in charge of flying Plutonian across the galaxy in his enclosure will not have enough fuel to return home. So this is a suicide mission for them. But they push on courageously anyway. The captain of the ship that is transporting Plutonian tells his men that their sacrifice may have saved the Vespan race from a power that they were too arrogant to admit they could not tame. He says that we will be remembered as heroes. Back on Earth, Cubit and Caden are trying to acclimate to the previous criminals whom Carrie pardoned, and they are going to try and make them into productive allies in the rebuilding of the world effort. First is the prisoner Decay. Decay is willing to help, but of course his powers are to make things decay. So I'm not sure he's going to be the biggest help when it comes to rebuilding stuff, but we shall see. The criminal known as Agent Graves, who now for some reason wants to change his name to Yarko the Great, well, he is willing to help as well. Caden asks him what his power is, and Yarko the Great answers super murder. Caden tells him, well, the paradigm forbids that now, just so you understand. They then all go to collect the criminal known as Shank, and she throws a whole bunch of knives at them. So Cubit just punches her in the face. Clearly, rehabilitating all of these criminals is going to be tough work. Back in space, the Vzz-P'Ah aliens put Plutonian into a place called Genome. Plutonian is trapped there within the heart of a sun. While all of this is happening, Plutonian in his mind is still in his dream world. He is in his volcano base. He was bathing in the lava there last we saw him, but now he is panicking as in his dream world his powers seem to be failing. Plutonian in his dream says, "Where are my powers? What's happening to my... Help me! I never meant for this to happen. I'm sorry." And then a mysterious masked hero named Auroran retrieves Plutonian from the volcano and flies him back to Sky City. When Plutonian asks the masked figure who he is, the masked figure just answers, "I'm your savior. Call me the Auroran. You don't have to worry about anything ever again, Tony. Not anymore. Not now." Plutonian in his dream is losing his powers, and he says to Auroran, "I don't understand. Why do I feel so weak? Is this what gravity is like? I can barely hold my head up. I can feel the breeze. I can feel everything. Oh my god. Everyone thinks I'm a villain again, and I have no powers. How do I protect myself when they all come after me now? How? I'm weak, I'm deaf, and I'm blind. What do I do? Auroran tells him, you stay by my side where I can watch over you always. Let me hide you. Auroran then places some glasses onto Plutonian so he can see. Plutonian asks him, who are you? Auroran answers, not yet. You wouldn't recognize me anyway. Just know that you've earned this. Just be at peace. Issue 23. On Genome in the heart of a sun, the Vzz-P'Ah aliens are wheeling Plutonian around. Meanwhile, in Plutonian's dream world, he is enjoying being a civilian and talking to his new hero pal, Auroran. Elsewhere, back on Earth, the Paradigm headquarters is being rebuilt, and new ex-villains are being put to work. So many superpowered criminals have come out of hiding seeking amnesty. Carrie had an idea to put a telepath mind reader to work and see if certain criminals seeking amnesty actually have good intentions. So Carrie is using the telepath named Burroughs, who is a pardoned criminal himself, and he puts Burroughs to work. The first mind that Burroughs must read is a creepy-looking fellow pardoned criminal named Apostate. Carrie wants to know if Apostate has good intentions. Burroughs, just looking at Apostate, really doesn't want to explore inside his mind, but Carrie forces Burroughs to. As Burroughs enters Apostate's mind, he starts seeing rats all over him and all sorts of dark stuff. It actually makes Burroughs start to cry. And when Burroughs leaves Apostate's mind, he tells Carrie, it's so dark, blood and screaming, and that smell, oh god, that smell! He's telling the truth though, he really does want to help, but it was all I could do to not snap. Carrie tells Burroughs, excellent, very informative, Burroughs, thank you. Burroughs asks, can I rest now? And Carrie says, of course. Just as soon as you finished scanning the rest of them, and there was a whole room of other depraved criminals for Burroughs to read. Back over to Plutonian's mind. He is on a date with his ex-girlfriend, Alana Patel. And in his dream, Alana tells Plutonian, don't pretend, I know who you are, and you can stop worrying. I never stopped loving you, Tony. And I forgive you for everything, because I know you, and I can see into the heart of you like no one else. You're all I've ever wanted, Tony. All of a sudden, in his dream, Alana turns into Modius on the date, and Modius tells Plutonian, we deserve a fresh start. Plutonian starts freaking out, and Modius says, don't be afraid. And then everyone in the restaurant now turns into Modius, and they all begin saying, we belong together, Tony, you and I. We always have. Face the truth. Look inside yourself. Plutonian in his dream jumps out the window. But in his dream world, he has lost his powers. So he is some ways plunging to his death in his dream. Auroran yells for Plutonian, no, Tony! Tony! It's been long enough! You have to wake up, now! Before you hit the ground, Tony! Wake up! Plutonian in his dream is falling to the street down below, but then he finally wakes up. Back over to Earth. We check back in on Carrie and the telepath, Burroughs. Burroughs, with his telepathy, is continuing to look into criminals' minds for Carrie. Burroughs hates it though. It is causing him some real stress. Cubit joins them in the room, and he claims he has some sort of machine that will help Burroughs do his work. Cubit then starts trying to communicate with Burroughs with his mind, right in front of Carrie, discreetly, secretly. Cubit thinks to Burroughs, can you hear me? Burroughs, with his telepathy, opens up a line of communication between the two of them, and they start thinking towards one another. Cubit tells Burroughs, "I'm here to help you, but first, you have to help me." Cubit has a device with him, and he tells Burroughs that this device is a resonator. It will help soothe Burroughs, and it will help him get through all of these mind readings he has to do. Cubit promises to activate the device if Burroughs will take a moment to peek into Carrie's mind. Burroughs refuses. He thinks to Cubit, "What if Carrie catches me?" Cubit in his mind replies back, "He won't. Go quickly. All I want is one genuine, unvarnished glimpse of what Carrie's true motives are. I need peace of mind that we've not traded the devil we know for the devil we don't." Well, Burroughs does it. He looks into Carrie's mind. And then once he does, he thinks over to Cubit, "You sick bastard. Oh God, oh God. You want to know what I found? You want to see Carrie's secret? Open up your head and I'll show you." Burroughs then shares the memories with Cubit of what he saw in Carrie's mind, and it startles Cubit. Carrie then tells Cubit to leave. He has work to do. Cubit, he leaves the room, and he's concerned with whatever Burroughs showed him. It makes him believe that Carrie is potentially as big a threat to the world as Plutonian was. Cubit leaves, and it is eventually revealed that he has been talking to Modius. Modius has Caden hostage elsewhere, and wants Cubit's help to get Plutonian back in exchange for Caden's safe return. Modius also apparently was the one that told Cubit to use the telepath to see what was in Carrie's head. And Cubit, talking to Modius now, tells Modius that he was right about Carrie. So Modius and Cubit will now be working together to retrieve the Plutonian. They open a portal and they head on their way to begin their mission. Back on Genome, Plutonian, finally awake and no longer dreaming, sees that he is in some sort of hospital, and there is weird, crazy-looking, dangerous aliens all around him. Plutonian, he gets up and busts through a wall, and he is walking outside, and he is asking where the hell he is. And Auroran, who somehow is there in the waking world, he answers saying, "They call it Genome. It is a citadel in the heart of a sun. No one in the recorded history of the sentient races has ever escaped. And if we're going to be the first, we'll have to work in concert." Plutonian, confused, asks, "You? I thought you were in my dream. Where did you come from? Who are you? Did you do this? Did you put me in prison?" Auroran answers, "Prison? Oh, Tony. Genome isn't a prison. It's an intergalactic insane asylum." And with that revelation of where Plutonian is, we now end Volume 6. Alright, that was Irredeemable Volume 6. Let me go through my thoughts on this one. I think this volume is still pretty solid, although it is a step down for me from the first 5 volumes. There is a lot of Plutonian sort of zonked out and in Dreamland and being a prisoner in this volume, and that is just a little bit less fun than Plutonian being evil and causing havoc. So, yeah. Now, I still did think it was very interesting learning more about the Vespins, seeing their prison planet and seeing how they are controlling Plutonian, so there was some cool stuff there. I thought it was interesting seeing Earth and seeing everyone celebrate Plutonian's defeat, and seeing Carrie step more into that leadership role. Of course, he is not doing a great job because Carrie is not a good leader who does not make good decisions. So, yeah, there was some interesting stuff there, and the Vespins have some cool stuff going on too. But on the whole, I think this volume is not as great to me as some of the earlier ones, so I'm going to give this one a 7.5 out of 10. Thank you all for watching, and I'll be back next week with Volume 7.